Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Eddie Marcus, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people. It is a pleasure for me to make this post for you, and I want to thank you so very much for just stopping here for a moment. And I promise you, it will be worth your while. Today, I want to talk to you about a superior system of government, and I want to present it as we know it to be. It really is a social pandemic. We must understand that many are called to do many things. And one of those things is to help God reclaim America and the world. Now, I am chosen of God to serve as spokesman to his children in relationship to who they are, why they are. You are the children of God, created to participate in the process of creation with God. Now, God is a spirit, invisible, unimaginable, yet all existence is evidence of God. You are physical and spirit. You are to receive guidance from the spirit and create the physical from divine given resources. Each of you come with an ability, a skill to use as a career, which provides your greatest joy. Now, in exercising these gifts, you create all that which currently exists, including food and clothing and shelter, education and health care, transportation, infrastructure, etc. Now, the resources are free from God. You are from God with necessities for survival. Now, these resources you create each day with full employment. You create enough goods and enough services with little room to contain them. So they overflow and the borders into other nations. No American citizen, and ultimately the citizens of the world, will ever be denied their needs, wants, and desires. Now, this method promotes peace, prosperity, freedom, joy, and fulfilled dreams. Humans are to live on earth, listen to me, as in heaven. God is the source of all and the power base of each human that operates in truth and spirit. There, my friend, there's no use for money or lies, cheating or stealing, hating or racism, bigotry or terror or war, or banks or bosses or superiors or privileged or special persons. Each of these serve as tools of evil, whose mission it is to destroy all that is right and good. Now, evil is spirit. Now, in the beginning, it found comfort in some humans, such as, for an example, Donald Trump, President of the United States, who wants to be God. Now, the plan calls for acquiring a nation or a world and claiming all of its resources, including control of the human population as slaves. The method of operation is deception, utilizing the tools of lying. A false message was given that some were special and superior to others, deserved more, and as God, as boss, as president, would take care of them for their support. Now, the strategy worked the same as it did on the United States Senate, the same as it did on the Republicans and his supporters, empowering them to steal all the natural resources from human and claim them as their own, abusing the rest of the population. Now, these evil ones are known as super wealthy, and they call themselves master. They call themselves Caesar. They call themselves Pharaoh. They call themselves king. They call themselves queen. They call themselves emperor. They call themselves pope and dictator. And they call themselves privileged, all meaning God. The system, my friends, their system is designed to rob the people well of their natural love for one another, which has been influenced by the challenge of money to meet survival needs. Everything costs money. This process creates crime, it creates violence, it creates poverty, it creates pain and suffering as the victimization on the remaining population that resisted. Now, these evils must cease. It is the duty, my friends, it is the responsibility of humans to serve as antibodies, to deny evil a foothold in the human experience by exposing evil and revealing the godly, heavenly way to progress. Now, that's our job. And what I've done here, ladies and gentlemen, I've shared with you basically what God wanted, what God's will is. That was my message, to share with you that for basically America, the world is on a path to hell. Devil running everything. But God wants me to remind you, and there are others reminding you, that there is God, there is right, there is love. But my friends, the reason you don't see it, you don't feel it, is because you've been deceived, you've been exploited. And you've been exploited by every system of government that exists on the face of the earth. In fact, they exist in what you call rebellion to the system of God. You see, God is invisible, and so we have to allow the Spirit to guide us. And so there are those who will never allow the Spirit to guide them, especially when it comes down to dealing with the rest of the public. So when there's no God you can see, then they claim to be God, to fill that billet. And each of them got their own aspirations, their own prejudices, and their systems reflect that. In democratic capitalism, what do we see? We see filthy billionaires and multimillionaires and millionaires and people who got a lot of money. And we see a lot of poverty. And out of there, we see all kinds of crime and violence and jails and killings, and everybody seems to be hating each other. And the system seems to continue to maintain itself because the people are at odds with one another. At odds with one another because they're deceived. They have no idea about what's really going on, what's causing the problems that they experience each day, because it's been misdirected by lies and innuendos. But the truth, my friends, is this, is that you're listening to men instead of listening to God. That is the truth. Here in America, the reason that Donald Trump, my friends, here's a perfect example of how the devil worked in the beginning. Come along. Tell somebody that, yes, you are an example. Are you trying to make the world a better place for God? If you are, then you're excused. If you're not, then I'm talking to you as well. Come along and tell you that there's a better way of living. Now, you can fall in any of those categories. I'm sure if you've got your needs and wants met, you're satisfied. And if you're struggling and stuff like that, you're wondering what's going on. And here's another trick. Donald Trump, as an example, comes along and started lying. Everything that you have been taught to believe, even though it was not the total truth, it was truthful, but it wasn't the total truth. Donald Trump came around and started that part that isn't truthful. Donald Trump emphasized it. He made that lie, so he brought that lie out. He just brought it out and told you this is who you're dealing with. These are liars. Well, what he did that. You know why he did that? He did that because he didn't want you to see the biggest liar. Who was the biggest liar? Donald Trump. And you bought into it because he reflected on that which you already knew was crooked. And he built it up so big that it blinded you to what he was doing. And the Republicans and the senators and others started talking about our power. Justice didn't mean anything. The preachers started talking about, but that's because they didn't know any better. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the day that God has given, and this is the time and the opportunity that you have to make a change in the way that you're doing things. Donald Trump was doing. The Republicans are placing people in positions of power so they can deny God even more. They are doing. Now, for you talking about God sitting up in churches, talking about how much God has healed you and how much God loved you, what are you doing for God? All of this pain, all of this suffering, that is evil. That is a sore whereby the Spirit of God is being called out, to come and deal with this sickness, to deal with this cancer, to eradicate it from the footholds of this society. And you're sitting up in a church. You're sitting up talking about biblical stories. Your whole life you've been sitting up talking about biblical stories. Now you're getting old and sick and dying and you're hurting because you have not taken care of the business of creating that which, suffering comes along. But you're supposed to be taking care of that. So by the time the future generation come along, that suffering is gone because you dealt with it. But no, you haven't dealt with that. You're sitting around fighting over crumbs. My job is to tell you that God loves you. And I'm here to tell you that you got to stop following these systems. There should be no pain. There should be no poverty. There should be no crime. There should be no violence. There should be no hunger. There should be no homelessness. Not on this earth. And speaking from America, we have to set the example. Every last one of those things must change. And we, the people, must make a decision. And yes, you got the freedom of thought. There's nothing about the freedom of thought. But any freedom of thought that causes pain or suffering to anyone, you do not have the liberty to do that. You have to cancel that out. That is not allowed. Not where love exists. So I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead on. Make your choice for the president. Donald Trump, which means that you really lost your mind. Or Joe Biden, which means you're still on the path of losing your mind. But it doesn't matter because the work has got to be done regardless. It would be a little bit easier, but not easy with the Democrats. But it won't be easy because the people's mind have already been set. It's like speaking English. I don't care how much you walk up to them and speak Italian or Chinese and they don't know it, can they respond back. Telling them about love, they don't understand it, so it's not going to be easy. So you're going to have to stand up for love. It's a beautiful thing. When you stand up for love, it is the power of God in the love that will change people. It's not about you and I. We're just instruments to do the work of angels, to do the work of God, to do the work that the Spirit that lives in us represent. That's all we are. And the world will change and be beautiful just as it is ugly today. So ladies and gentlemen, I really want to thank you so very much for giving me this your time. But as spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people, that is to say that every right that God designed from the beginning of time for human beings that lives on this earth is still current, prevalent, and necessary. And God that requires that it exists. And all this evil stuff has got to go. But it will only go, not that God is going to come down and work a miracle, unless he works it through you. The ones who wake up and tell evil, you gotta go. I'm telling the devil, telling that snake in the garden, I don't want to hear you. Get away from me. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, goodbye.